WWE creative told to ignore online fans. Plus, we have an update on WWE Draft plans, and AEW seem to be preparing for a Bryan Danielson return. It's all in the Cultaholic Wrestling news right now. I think all discourse is important. Like this guy in our comment section yesterday who told us that we're too scared to call out Monet. Okay, I'll do it now. I thought Bridges and Water Lilies was rubbish. There you go, I've done it. But in terms of WWE, they really aren't paying attention to that discourse whatsoever.
No, Stephanie McMahon chatting away with Nick Khan on her new podcast, What's Your Story? On the show, Nick Khan is an Oasis thing. It's funny on the Nick Khan addressing WWE's approach to online criticism. And he said, "We encourage our creative team and writers, don't program for that. Program for the universe, not for a small portion of the universe who wants to criticize you." Go on, Tom, what do you make of this?
Well, here's what I think of you, Nick Khan. Okay, so I think there's something to be said for, I think the big person to monitor on this one was the push of Jey Uso. In the sense that online, it was if you just exclusively looked online, you would have thought that Jey Uso was the worst wrestler and the worst champion the company's ever had, and he's tanking the company single-handedly. But then if you don't look online and just watch the product, you'd assume Jey Uso is like the next coming of The Rock, just in terms of like the reaction from the crowd and the sheer noise when he comes out, the way everyone joins in with the yeeting, whether you love it or you don't. So I get the argument that you have to really separate them, you have to keep them separated, but there's something to be said for sometimes listening to some elements of online discourse, but certainly not embracing all of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the real hardcore internet wrestling community members, they're not really ever happy, are they? I'm not trying to slag anyone off or anything, but you see it every time. You can't win, can you? You know, something happens and there will always be a section of the fandom who won't be pleased by that. To be honest, I really agree with him. I really agree. Right? So we forget, as part of the internet wrestling community, or whatever you want to call us, that we are a relatively small portion of the wrestling fandom. For every one loser like you or I whinging on Twitter, there are 5 middle-aged people in Missouri watching because they think Roman Reigns is really hot, or Jey Uso's got a cool catchphrase, or they waiting for The Rock to come back or something like that. They make up the majority. There was a really good quote, I think it was actually a Vince quote, that you don't even really need to see the wrestling, all you need to do is listen. And the Jey Uso example that you've just given there is, I think, like the best example of that, because he was so unbelievably over. I couldn't help but think, with Nick Khan's comments here as well, was he taking a little bit of a pop at Triple H, who is, by all accounts, chronically online, is constantly checking Twitter, and paying attention to some of the big sort of Twitter, like the fan accounts, like the ones with the 60,000-70,000 followers who get all the traction.
I mean, it's one of those where if you're going to listen to some fans, maybe you listen to the ones with the larger followings behind them, potentially, as opposed to like the ones that I don't really have an avatar and they got like 4 people following them and they just hate everything.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a balancing act, because you've got to bear in mind as well that you've got to wade through that sort of treacle online of people whose whole thing online is, my character is I don't like anything, so I'm going to complain about everything.
Oh, the real life heels.
Yeah, I'm a real life heel.
But then you're a wanker, mate. A real life heel.
You're a dick, mate. But then therefore there isn't that sincerity of editorial with someone like that.
Yeah.
Where you just go, they're just sounding off because that's their shtick. Great shtick.
Ultimately, it's one metric, and it's a metric that I think is worth keeping an eye on, but they have access to significantly more and perhaps better metrics than just online fan discourse. This is one thing that they've got access to, but goodness me, they've got a lot more data than this.
They've got socials, they've got crowd numbers coming in, they've got merch sales, they've got the almighty orb, they've got everything at their disposal in terms of how they can track what trends are. And so I kind of get why a lot of it you don't listen to online. Yeah. I'm just saying. Let us know what you think down there. But draft coming up at some point. They have suggested there is a draft happening. We thought it might have been after Backlash, and it wasn't. We thought it might have been after Money in the Bank, and it wasn't. I mean, we are getting later and later into the year, and I don't see any draft to come in.
No, it doesn't seem that way. But according to a new report from WrestleVotes, one person might get drafted sooner rather than later, and that person is LA Knight.
Yeah.
Not as good as Andrew. WrestleVotes saying, according to those within the company, we are told more than a handful of people are advocating for LA Knight to be moved to the Raw brand in the near future, as his presence on Netflix could be viewed as something of a refreshing change.
Like Woodpecker that time.
What?
The
Woodpecker.
drink. Woodpecker. What a refreshing change.
I don't remember.
It's an advert from
the red can. Yeah, I've had that before.
The drink from
He's old. He doesn't know what he's on about.
It's funny. My gimmick is I'm old. That's the thing. Do you remember teletext? I used to get all my wrestling news on
quiz
teletext.
on that.
Oh, Bamboozle.
That's the one.
Give me Bamboozle, you monsters. So I think there's something in that, because LA Knight has only been on Raw maybe twice.
Yeah, it's not a handful of times.
As LA Knight,
sure.
you know?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. It feels like he's done an awful lot on SmackDown, and it also feels like they don't want to put him in the world title picture over on SmackDown. Will they do so on Raw? Probably not. I tend to not worry about LA Knight anymore. I really enjoy
You used to fall asleep at night going,
no, God, I hope he's okay, that multi-millionaire.
Hope LA Knight's okay.
No, because he has proven that regardless of opportunities or being inserted into the world title picture, anything like that, the guy's just perpetually over. He doesn't have to worry. He's shifting merch. He comes out and he can win, he can lose. It doesn't matter. Fans absolutely love him.
Yeah, he's absolutely Teflon at the moment when it comes to fan discourse and fan sentiment.
It's a weird time to be drafted in that. If the draft is coming up, because surely, LA Knight's he's had, I don't want to say he's run out of opponents on SmackDown, but he's wrestled a lot of people on SmackDown. And if you take him over to Raw, those people from SmackDown that he's already wrestled end up on Raw as well. And then you got the same problem.
That has happened a few times before, and it is hilarious when that does happen. So in terms of other people that certainly have a massive groundswell of support behind them, let's talk Bryan Danielson. Yesterday, you and I sat here and got quite excited to see Bryan Danielson getting in there, saving Blue Panther from a beating at the hands of Shane Taylor and his gang. And we even saw Shane Taylor take a Basaiku knee for his trouble as well.
Beautiful stuff.
It was so good to see Bryan Danielson not just take a Basaiku knee, no, but take a backbone.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's all about. A new update from Fightful reporting Danielson appeared on Ring of Honor Global Wars and made the save for Blue Panther in the spot that we just talked about there. And they mentioned that it was very important to him personally. So is Danielson coming back?
I get the vibe that he might be, and some positive news from Fightful Select suggests that he might be as well. They say those that we spoke to in AEW said that certain things have been done and set up for whenever Bryan Danielson can return. If that ends up being the case, namely Wheeler Yuta using Danielson's moves. That's cool. So I think maybe it's the person that we might see Danielson have that match back against could be Wheeler Yuta.
Quite possibly. They continue saying AEW was very careful to only say that he was effectively done as a full-time talent when Danielson was wrapping up, knowing that he could come back. I feel like he's just going to be doing it forever. Again, he said that, he's happy backstage, agenting, producing the matches, training people, whatever. But, I'm not sure I buy it all. I think he probably misses it. The thing about Danielson is that his passion for wrestling is so unbelievably contagious. And I saw those photos and a bit of video of Danielson and Chris Hero in the crowd just having a whale of a time. And I was like, man, that's awesome. That makes me love wrestling. That makes me he's so into it. And yeah, that's really, really contagious. And I miss seeing him. I really miss seeing him.
If they're going to do it, they've got to make sure they make the biggest deal out of it possible. It's got to be front and center, biggest show. I don't think it'll be in time for All In Texas. I think there's enough going on that show that you don't need that. Maybe something for later in the year, maybe even something for next year, potentially, if you want to stretch this thing out that long.
Just sprinkle him in over the next 50 years, because I don't want him to go anywhere. I love the guy so much, and he's you know what? If anybody deserves a part-time schedule, it's Bryan Danielson.
It really, really is. For the very latest wrestling news at any time, you can check out Cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.